We've got a charged atmosphere for two rivals in the East Division. It's the Moonshine Throwdown. Marshall and Western Kentucky.
Intercepted by Key, and Key has one man to beat. A nice cut move. Edwards can't get him. Key takes it all the way. A pick six for Devin Key.
Here comes Talik Keaton to the sideline midfield. He's to the 40, gets a block, and here's goal! Touchdown, Marshall!
So please join me in welcoming the 21st head coach in WKU football history, Tyson Helton.
And Marshall's going to finish the year 9-4 and champions of the 2018 Gasparilla Bowl, the sixth consecutive bowl win for the Marshall Thundering Herd.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Throwdown podcast. 2 episodes this week. We didn't feel good about trying to squeeze everything we wanted to talk about into one massively long episode, so we decided to break it up this week. Trace and I recorded Everything Heard yesterday, and you should probably look for that up this afternoon. Steven and I are here now, and we're going to record Everything Western, and you might see that later this evening or maybe tomorrow. If you hear some noise in the background, you're just going to hang with us. We've got special guests. Yep, that's right. Steven and I are both Mr. Mom today, where we're taking care of our boys. I've got Cooper downstairs, and he's got the Jet Man hanging out in the living room with him. So if you guys hear some kids, you're just going to have to deal because, well, family first. Let's talk about this trip down to Hattiesburg, Steve. I was not big on the Toppers and the Eagles matchup. I'd said it for weeks. I even picked Western to lose the game, and they went out and had probably the most dominating performance in all 3 phases of the season. 28-10 victory. Western Kentucky now 7-4, 5-2 in conference, tied for second in the East with Marshall. I mean, unbelievably dominating performance. But if you look at the stat line, those 4 indicators, you wouldn't necessarily think that. I mean, Southern Miss outgains Western Kentucky 388-365. They outpossess Western Kentucky 30 minutes, 19 seconds to 29 minutes, 41 seconds. They even get more first downs than Western, 22-17. But just as it has bitten Western this season, the turnover bug, 3-1 in the favor of Western. And that is ultimately the difference in the game. This game was tied at 7 apiece at the 4-minute, 31-second mark of the first quarter. And from that point on until under 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, it was all Western Kentucky. They scored 21 answered points, multiple unbelievable defensive plays, some of which sparked a little controversy on social media, which I got a big kick out of. But I hate to break it to you guys, the ball did not cross the plane of the end zone. It's plain as day to me. Toppers even knocked Jack Abraham out of the game, which could loom large this week as Southern Miss tries to get a win against FAU to ensure their opportunity at a Conference USA West Division title. But, man, the Topper defense just swarmed. I mean, turnovers, big plays, you name it. It was just a great all-around effort for this defense, and the offense put up really solid numbers as well. So talk to me about Southern Miss. I mean, I know you're happy, and I know you're happy once again that I am now 0-3 when I pick the Toppers to lose conference games, because that means you guys are winning. So let's talk about Southern Miss.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great game, obviously. I mean, final score proves that. I mean, Southern Miss was a real contender in the West. You know, one of the stronger teams in conference, tough at home. You're just always a pretty good team with a good history in the league. You know, and we're in that same boat where they could have controlled their own destiny and had a walk into the conference championship game. Now there's a lot of scenarios where people need help to secure their spot. Like you said, the game was just impressively dominating for the defense. You know, 2 big plays that kind of really sparked the game going Western's favor. One being the fumble right at the goal line that you mentioned, when the Southern Miss player was stripped. You know, the camera angle wasn't great, but like you said, it did look pretty conclusive that the ball didn't cross the plane of the goal line. It looked like a good call. that was reviewed and upheld. And then there was another one where we had them backed up to their goal line, and I think Kyle Bailey hit the quarterback and before he passed the ball, and he fumbled. D'Angelo Malone picked it up for a scoop and score. So 2 big plays that, just really swung the game into our favor. The defense just continued to do what they were doing. Just everybody flying around, making plays. The number 1 passing attack in the league with Jack Abraham and Watkins. We didn't, by any means, we didn't shut them down. Tim Jones still had a big game and Watkins had a good game, but Jack Abraham was uncomfortable the entire game. He had somebody in his face. He was not in a clean pocket. And we just made life tough for him, really kind of slowed them down and made their life tough. And that's kind of what we hang our hat on. One of the best scoring defenses in the nation, one of the best pass defenses in the nation now, which is, truly a shock after the way game number 1 ended, when UCA just blistered us with long play, and had that comeback in the fourth quarter. Now this team's sitting at 8 or 7 wins with a very realistic chance to get 8 coming up against MTSU. And just, man, what a job, what a game, what a season. Even though we're not in contention for a conference title, just to turn around the growth and progression of this team in their first year under Helton, and then knowing that we have a lot of that coming back next year. There's not a lot of seniors that are going to be leaving this year. So knowing that we're going to have some continuity next year, hopefully we can keep the coaching staff mostly intact. And next year could really shape up to be a huge year in Bowling Green. Not to look for too much. We still got some ball games to play, but this has been an enjoyable season, even though there was a couple losses you wish you could have back. Still just a fun group of kids. They play the game the right way. They're tough. And they never quit. So I love it, man. Great game. Really, really impressive win, and hopefully we still got a couple more in the tank.
Well, you say, yes, you're out of Conference USA title of contention this year, but also, actually it's 1 field goal. And if Rohrwasser misses that field goal, then this scenario might be flip-flopped where you're tied with Marshall in second in the East, but you have the tiebreaker, and now you're hoping FAU loses this weekend and you take care of business against Middle Tennessee. I mean, any way you want to slice it, this season has been a real surprise. And, there are always going to be fans that say, we're going to win 8, we're going to win 7. We were down last year, but we're back this year. This could be a 9-win ball club, and I really didn't think that was really in striking distance this year. I mean, yes, I figured there was going to be a certain degree of bounce back. We probably were definitely not going to see another 3-win season, but to set at 7 wins, and really, I can't hand them the win against Middle Tennessee right now, but Middle Tennessee's pretty bad. And 8 to me is basically guaranteed. I mean, it has been for a long time, but I was wrong about Southern Miss. I hope we don't see a big letdown this weekend, but I really don't think we will. I've got faith in the fact that Tyson Helton can put together a aggressive game plan to ensure a win, and that's not something we see on the other side of this rivalry. It's a lot of conservative play calling, and that's bitten the herd. So being able to sit at 9 wins, and you're talking about a lot of it coming back next year, dude, expectations are going to be really, really high. But before we get there, let's talk about stats for this game. Ty Story, another solid day. I mean, man, once he got it clicking, it really got clicking. 20 of 30 on the day, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gage Walker, 20 attempts for 84 yards. I believe you say he's sitting around 3 or 4 yards shy of 1,000. So you like to think you're going to hit that mark against Middle Tennessee. Ja'Cour Pearson, 7 catches, 88 yards, 1 touchdown, big 64-yard catch and run. And then Quinn Jernigan, 4 receptions, 50 yards, and the other Ty Story touchdown. Defensively, Devin Key, Kyle Bailey, both 11 tackles. Key 4 solo, 1 pass defended. Kyle Bailey 4 solo, half a sack, 1.5 tackles for loss. A pass defended and a quarterback hurry. Sheesh. Is he the one that forced the fumble as well, you said?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Kyle Bailey.
Man, what an all-around – he put at least one in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 stat categories? Gracious. Antoine Kincaid, 6 tackles, 4 solo, and an interception. And then D'Angelo Malone, 6 tackles, 3 of those solo, 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 touchdown. And I saw what Western put out is that D'Angelo now has 19 tackles for loss, setting the single-season FBS record for tackles for loss in a season for Western Kentucky. So the great season continues with still at least, well, not at least, but 2 games to play. Corey Munson, 0 out of 1 on field goals, 4 on extra points. Field goal really didn't matter. 28-10 is convincing enough. Haggerty, 6 punts on the day with a 45.2-yard average and a long of 64. I mean, you got a really good performance out of a lot of guys, and the scoreboard really showed it. There's not much more you can say about Southern Miss. The Tops went down and took care of freaking business against one of the better teams in the West, a really high-scoring team, and they held them to 10 points. And there were several opportunities where this game could have been closer. And just like I said before, phenomenal plays were made. We talked about the play on the goal line where the ball was stripped out as the receiver was going in, and that play goes like 40 yards the other way. You know, you get a scoop and score down low. I mean, this is pretty amazing stuff. Toppers continue to look like they're playing their best football right now. And, I don't envy Middle Tennessee. They will be up for that game, of course. The fans will be up for that game. Senior Day, we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And then you just get to sit back and see who you draw in a bowl game and where it's at. Like to get one of those in the win column. But, that's a few weeks away. We'll see. So let's talk about some grades. What do you got for quarterback Ty Story this week against Southern Miss?
Man, Mr. Efficient Ty Story. I mean, this guy, he's an A. I mean, he's really proven himself that, you almost can say this guy should have had the keys the whole season. I mean, our season could look a whole lot different if he had the keys from day one. Nothing against Stephen Duncan, who's a little bit more of a risk taker and a ball pusher when it comes to, being a quarterback. But, man, Ty Story is just – in one season, he's going to really put a stamp on what he's helped do for the program as far as coming back from a 3-9 season and then just really coming in and just helping us turn this thing around in Coach Helton's first year. I mean, he's earned an A in a lot of games. He's just an absolutely tough player. Those early games where you kind of question some of his turnovers and stuff like that have just completely been washed away. The Arkansas game and then a bye week into the Southern Miss game. I mean, he's played his best games of the season, 2 games in a row. And we've got Middle coming up, and they're Middle, and they're not very good. So I expect that to continue. So Story gets an A, man. He's Mr. Efficient. Gotta love him.
He really has been as advertised, I guess, and a little bit more. He's on pace. Just rough math for me. He's going to be somewhere around, if he has another Ty Story type game, he could be somewhere between 2,200 yards passing at the end of the regular season, about a dozen touchdowns, and if he throws one up for grabs, 6 interceptions, and that's pretty good considering, we really didn't see him until about week or game 3 or 4 or something like that, maybe 5. I don't recall exactly, but really pieced together a great season. So how about offensively as a whole? 28 points. Granted, one was from the defense, one touchdown was from the defense, but, still 365 yards, held the ball just shy of half the game. I mean, what do you got for the offense this week?
Yeah, the offense, I still give them an A. Obviously, the points, you'd like to see more points, but they were clicking. They were doing what they were supposed to do. USM still has a pretty good defense. They're a good team. Just because we went and handled business, that doesn't mean they're not a they still had a good defense. They made good adjustments. They put some pressure on us and made us make adjustments to our game plan. But the offense was still clicking. Still a lot of guys making plays. Good game plan, good play calling by Coach Ellis and Helton. So definitely an A for the offense. Just a great overall game. And, final margin of score was still impressive, even though it wasn't a ton of points. It's kind of where we've landed, in points. That 22 to 28 mark is kind of our sweet spot. And 7 victories have come out of it. So hard to complain.
Yeah, it really is hard to complain. For sure. Now, I don't even think we really need to say, but we're going to say defensively this week, what another gem. We hadn't seen a really, really, really dominating performance in this type of way in a while. Yeah, they gave up a bunch of yards, but it really didn't matter. I mean, the turnovers and the points and all that kind of stuff was great. So what do you got for the defense this week?
Yeah, I mean, the defense definitely gets an A. I mean, I'm not sure that there's anything else you could get. I mean, just pressure all game long, held them to 10 points. I saw somebody post, one of the USM accounts post that it was, or maybe Elliott Pratt, that it was the lowest amount of points that Southern Miss has had at home in 6 seasons.
Wow.
So really went into their place and just, silenced the crowd. I know there was that controversial fumble, which sparked a lot of complaining and bickering on Twitter, and I was right there stirring the pot with the USM people. I loved it because they were mad because they were losing. So it is what it is. Defense did their thing as they've done all season, and I really expect them to bow up and flex that against Middle Tennessee. I look hopefully to see their best performance, even better than what we've seen already against those guys in blue coming to town, even though there's going to be like about 50 of them total, and that's going to be the ones on the sideline. So
yeah,
it's a good game because they get another A.
Yeah, definitely a really good effort by that. Look, one thing I've got to say is I happened to gander at the announced attendance at Southern Miss, and I was surprised. Only 20,369 in attendance for one of the quote-unquote better fan bases in the conference, and this is a team that had everything in front of them as well. They needed to win out, and Louisiana Tech lost to UAB, so they were in a similar situation to Marshall. They win, and they kind of take the lead in the West, and they didn't do it, and I thought more people would be there with given what was on the line. So how about let's move along to special teams this week. What do you got for the special teams grade for Western against Southern Miss?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the missed field goal that Munson had. I missed that field goal. I think I walked out of the room or something. I missed the field goal. But I know Haggerty had a lot of good punts. You mentioned the 60-yarder. It was a low line drive. The guy let it go over his head, and it had a very friendly roll. So, just another good game for him. Not going to hold the field goal against Munson. Freshman kicker has been consistent. He's still got the leg to do some things in the future as he gains more confidence and more experience. So I'm going to give the special teams a B. Cumulatively, I think those guys have done what they need to do and didn't have any big gaffes that cost us any points or anything. So a B for special teams.
Yeah, this, like I said before, the field goal was a non-issue. I mean, you win by 18 points, 3 doesn't really matter. So how about the coaching effort this week? I mean, another great performance. This staff, Tyson Helton, Clayton White, those guys, Brian Ellis, they are proving to be one of the top-tier staffs in Conference USA in their first freaking season. So what you got for them?
Yeah, I mean, coaching staff, they continue to draw up good game plans. I mean, even the games we lost, they've had good game plans and put us in position to where we could have won some ball games just by getting better. So the coaching staff definitely gets an A. Like I mentioned earlier, I really hope we can keep all those guys together after this season. I think the toughest one will be keeping Clayton White around, which I've had discussions with a couple other people about that. Hopefully he stays. I mean, everybody seems to be optimistic that he likes Bowling Green. He wants to be here. He could potentially be the next head coach in waiting if he sticks around and Helton has success and goes on somewhere. So, not trying to think down the road to that possibility of losing another head coach to success. But if it does happen, keeping that continuity would be big. So, with that said, the coaching staff definitely gets an A. I mean, just all around, good game plan, and looking forward to 2 more games of that.
Nothing wrong about all those statements, that's for sure. These guys are just unbelievably creative, and they get the most out of their guys every week, and that's all you can really ask for. Overall this week, 28-10. Moving up to 7 wins, guaranteeing a bowl, not just bowl eligible, but now guaranteeing a bowl with the possibility of 8 wins on the horizon in the regular season. What do you got overall for the Tops this week?
Yeah, I mean, overall, possibly their most convincing win of the season. Arkansas was a big win. So SEC program is always a big win, but just in conference, probably their best win of the season. Just kind of a never in doubt, even though it was close, through the first quarter. Just a great performance, great win. We know what the defense is bringing every game. The offense is clicking. I mean, Ty Story and his receivers, Gage Walker, the tight ends, just everybody's doing their part. Quinn Jernigan stepped up to kind of be another wide receiver. I think we talked about last time. We know Lucky and Jakor are going to get theirs. We've seen Jock Sloan and now Quinn Jernigan stepping up in the receiving game. So just a lot of playmakers, a lot of skill, a lot of athletes on the team. They're just really stepping up, and Helton's putting them in position to really show what they're capable of and let them have fun while they're playing. So just A's for all around, and just gotta love what we got going on and the direction that the team and the program is going right now.
Yeah, look, all I know right now is Jet is super pumped up about this win. I mean, he is really excited that the Toppers took care of business against Southern Miss. He wants to give his A grade as well. I mean, he's trying to get on the mic. I'm okay with that. In case you guys didn't know, that is Steven's youngest. That's Jet taking over the airwaves. So here's the big question. What do we know about Western Kentucky after 11 games?
Yeah, I mean, we know that the defense is legit. I mean, they proved it in out of conference. And now they've come and they're a top 25 scoring defense in the nation. I believe their pass defense is ranked in the top 20. I think number 14 last I saw it. So we know this defense is going to bring it every week. We've got a lot of playmakers on both sides of the ball, and they're only getting better. I mean, they're getting more experience, and we're subbing guys in. We're not just playing only those 11 starters. We're getting a lot of experience for even the backups as well. So I think that bodes well to the future. The last couple of years of struggles has always kind of been attributed to youth and coaching. We corrected the coaching aspect of it. And now the experience that, kind of paid off over the last couple of years is really shining through in a lot of successful game situations and guys just making plays and executing the right way. So we know the defense is legit. We know the offense is clicking and going the right direction. We play clean football. We probably win the game. That's what I know in these last two games. If we play clean football, score in the high 20s, the defense is going to put us in position to win. So that's what I know.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I don't think there's any question now about the validity and the fierceness and lethality of this Western Kentucky defense for sure. The offense is good or great in spurts. They can put up the points, they can put up the yards, and then it's a little ho hum from time to time. But by and large, Trace and I were talking about it last night, and I don't know which is more my surprise team in Conference USA. Yeah, we lean towards Western Kentucky and Marshall because we do, because of what we do and what we represent here. But, it comes down to me really between Western Kentucky and Charlotte, because Charlotte's been so bad for so long, and here they are bowl eligible for the first time ever. But, man, it's just really hard to look past what Western Kentucky has done this year and just chalk it up to, well, they were just down for a couple of years. Because, man, that was a pretty down couple of years. I mean, it was trending downward, and it really culminated at the end of last season with just a 3-win effort. And to have it turn around with 7 under the belt, 8, and potentially 9 with a bowl game win, this might be the surprise team. And, there will be a lot of folks next year that talk about Western Kentucky as a Conference USA contender for sure. There's no doubt. There's no getting away from it. I mean, yeah, you got to replace the quarterback, and there are a few other pieces in there that you're going to have to replace, but there's no way around the expectations that are going to come next year. So before we get to next year, let's talk about next week. Let's transition here. We're going to talk about Western Kentucky welcoming, if you want to use that word, Middle Tennessee State into Bowling Green for Senior Day. It is the 100 Miles of Hate, the historic rivalry 69th meeting all time between these two teams now. Middle Tennessee holds a slight edge, 35-32-1. Middle got the win last season in Murfreesboro, 28-10, but the last time the game was played in Bowling Green in 2017, Toppers escaped with a 41-38. What was that, like double overtime or something like that win, or was it just regular overtime? I don't recall. Triple overtime victory. I knew it was overtime somehow. I just didn't know how many. So, couple more wins, and this will be an even series. So you got to love that. Middle Tennessee, what we know about Middle Tennessee is that they can beat a bad team, but they really, don't beat too many good teams unless those teams just self-destruct. They did beat Marshall earlier in the season, and if you'll recall, Marshall had 5 turnovers on their final 5 possessions and only lost by like a touchdown or something like that. But on the season, Middle Tennessee is allowing 10 more points per game than Western Kentucky is on defense. The Raiders are allowing almost 30 points per game, 29.8, and the top is only 19.5 points per game. I tell you, they're also allowing 130 plus more yards per game on defense. They're allowing over 450 yards per game.
Worse than the conference.
Yeah, whereas the Toppers are only allowing 326. So look, this has all the makings just from those couple of stats that tell me, A, Western will be able to move the ball basically at will and score at will. He really, really likes being able to actually talk to someone on the screen. Oh, boy. I've lost my train of thought, but that's okay. But all right. We're a family show. Anyway, that tells me that Western should be able to move the ball at will and score at will. And, Middle Tennessee is not very potent offensively. I mean, if you can take care of business against Austin O'Hara, you're pretty much going to have an easy day against the Blue Raiders. So, being that you are the resident Western Kentucky expert here, and being that you remember life before the Moonshine Throwdown, let's talk about the 100 Miles of Hate. Let's talk about Middle Tennessee and what this game means and how you see this one in particular, the 69th edition, playing out.
Yeah, I mean, right now the Blue Raider fan base, I mean, if you keep up with them on Twitter, what little segment they have, there are 4 or 5 fans that are active on there. I mean, they're having a meltdown for all meltdowns, and it's kind of a annual thing for them. They lose a couple games they shouldn't lose, or they thought they might have a chance to win, and they go into fire their coach mode because he's 14 seasons in and has never won a conference championship, and he's barely above 500. For whatever reason, they had high expectations coming into this season, even though they lost the best quarterback they've ever had in program history, in Brent Stockstill, who's coaching at FAU now. They still got their average coach and a new quarterback starting his first games in Asher O'Hara, who actually has been a little bit impressive in spurts. I mean, he's very dynamic throwing the ball and running the ball as he leads their team in rushing with 900 plus rushing yards, and he can throw the ball as well. But he might really be their only weapon on offense. I mean, they've got Ty Lee, but I really, kind of trust our back end to shut down the big play. When it comes down to it, I just think we have more weapons. I think we have better players, better athletes. And I think our defense is just going to show out, have a good game. The players, they know what this game is. I think it's something like six of the last 7 or 5 of the last 6 have been decided by one score, and 3 of the last 4, 3 of the last 5 have gone to overtime, something like that. Just something ridiculous where these games are always close. They're always intense, no matter the win record of the teams. So I think the players know what this one means. They know that it's a rivalry, that the teams, the programs, the fans don't like each other when it comes to being, on the field of play. So I expect the players to really step up, continue their solid and clean play, and I expect a convincing victory. Nothing like 58-28 like 2015 or 16, whatever that was, when we just blew them out of the water. But I wouldn't be surprised to see us put kind of the score on them that they put on us last year, which was 29-10 or something like that last year. So, I expect our defense to hold them to little points. I expect us to put up our mid-20s like we normally do and get out of there easy win and hopefully find out which bowl game we're going to the next day.
Yeah, I look at this one and I think this is an opportunity for Western Kentucky to play bully and just shove around a subpar Middle Tennessee State team. Yes, it's a rivalry. Yes, to a certain extent, you can toss the records out the window, but Middle Tennessee is just not very good, and Western is pretty good. And I feel like this is an opportunity for them to assert their dominance over Middle Tennessee and just be like, look, we're a notch above you right now. We were both rebuilding, and we've rebuilt better, faster, and stronger than you did. Middle Tennessee is just stuck in neutral, man. I mean, as long as I can remember, they have just been a middle-of-the-pack Conference USA team, and that's not a place where you want to live. I mean, they had their opportunity last year, and yeah, I'm going to keep bringing this up because it's absolutely hilarious to me. They had the opportunity to win a conference title, and what happens? You lose it on a 12-man on the field penalty. Good Lord. I mean, I don't know if there's a worse way to lose the championship than on a penalty like that, but they're just not that good. And, if they're content to win 4, 5, 6 games and maybe sneak into some kind of worst bowl game that Conference USA has and then go lose that game, all right, that's who you are. But it shows me that the administrations at Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee State are in two different thought processes. Western wants to win, right? Middle Tennessee State appears like they really don't care to win. And that's shown itself not only on the football field, but also on a basketball court. It might not show up on the scoreboard. You're right. It might be a 28-10 game. I mean, when we get to predictions here in a little bit, I've got it slightly higher than that. I don't think it's going to be a 50-3 ball game. I just don't think Western's really built that way unless they get a bunch of special team scores and some defensive scores and stuff like that. But I don't think it's going to be one of those games. But I do think it's going to be a never in doubt type game, just like we just saw against Southern Miss, to where it might not show up on the scoreboard, but it's a 100% fact that the game will be dominated by Western Kentucky. So let's talk about some stats. You mentioned Austin O'Hara, the 6', 190-pound sophomore quarterback. He has been really the bright spot for Middle Tennessee this season, replacing their all-timer Brent Stocksdale. 192 out of 302 on the season, 2,315 yards, 17 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, and yes, he is their leading rusher. 170 carries, 900 yards even so far, and 9 more touchdowns on the ground. I mean, that's a pretty great season right there. Running back Terrell West, 5'9", 193-pound senior, 39 carries, 290 yards, and 4 touchdowns on the ground. And a couple of wide receivers, one you mentioned. But the leading receiver this season is Jaron Pierce, the 5'11", 184-pound junior, 39 catches, 524 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Ty Lee does lead in receptions. Pierce leads in yards and touchdowns. Ty Lee, of course, the 5'9", 186-pound senior, 44 catches, 474 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Defensively, just a couple of guys I want to talk about. Your cousin, of course, safety Javonte Moffitt. I don't know why you let your family play such good ball, but it is what it is. The 6', 210-pound senior, 91 tackles, 68 of those solo, and 3 interceptions. So Javonte Moffitt could potentially top the 100 tackle mark in this game. And then linebacker DQ Thomas, the 6'2", 214-pound junior, 69 tackles on the season, 44 of those are solo. And 1 sack and 2 forced fumbles. Now, here's the stat I love to point out when I see it. Middle Tennessee only has 8 quarterback sacks as a team on the season. Looks like Ty Story's going to have some time to pass the ball. They do not get after the quarterback well at all. So, what do you think the Tops got to do to defend home field, get to that 8th win in regular season, and solidify a better bowl game move an inch closer into evening out the all-time series against Middle Tennessee State, and ultimately just getting a win?
I mean, I think the obvious one is continue to play clean football. I mean, they can't go in and turn the ball over 4 or 5 times. Like you mentioned earlier, what happened to Marshall when they just kind of self-destructed and let that game get away. If you turn the ball over that many times, it doesn't matter who you're playing. You're putting yourself behind the 8 ball, you're likely going to lose. So definitely keep a clean game being played like they had been the last 2, unlike the prior 2 against FAU and Marshall when they had 7 turnovers. So keep the turnovers low, win that battle, whatever you want to call it. They should be fine. Then really just riding the back of Ty Story. I mean, between him throwing the ball and his legs, I mean, I know we've talked about Asher being an impressive dual threat quarterback, but also Ty Story has also shown the ability that when he needs to tuck the ball and run, gain those tough yards, he can easily do that. So I think Ty Story will really be a main piece in the success. And then the defense just has to come out and give Asher O'Hara a tough time. I mean, obviously you don't want to give any quarterback a clean pocket. If you let him sit back there, they're going to make some plays with their arms. I mean, he's a Division I quarterback. We know he can throw the ball, as most of them can if they have a clean pocket. His strength is probably his legs, extending plays, make it scrambling and getting first downs. So we need to keep him uncomfortable. I mean, keep that edge pressure, keep him up the middle, keep him just guessing where that pressure is going to come from. So if he does try to scramble, he ends up running into one of our guys and taking some loss, getting behind the chains, and really put them in situations where they have to throw the ball. Those long second, long third down. Hopefully get them off the field, put our offense back on the field, and let them continue to click and put up enough points in the game. Because I don't think it'll take a lot. But, we want to keep their offense off the field, obviously.
This is what I think of Middle Tennessee this year. And I hate to sound like I'm piling on, but usually I give you 4 key points to victory because I think there are generally 4 areas that kind of need to be met or things to do to ensure the win. And this week, I've only got 2. That's how unworried I am about this team. It's number 1, you stop Austin O'Hara. That's it. He's like their entire offense. So if you can get him on the ground, I mean, play sound run defense on him, and dude, they won't be able to do anything. And number 2, if Western Kentucky can take advantage of a poor Middle Tennessee State pass rush and rush defense, it's a wrap. I mean, that's it. I mean, I can't give you I could tell you, don't turn the ball over and play clean football, but that goes without saying, but that's it. Your 2 keys to victory: stop Austin O'Hara and take advantage of a porous front 7 for Middle Tennessee State. And it should be a no-doubter in Bowling Green. So who's your 200-proof player this week?
Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to pick the defensive side and pick somebody on there, but that's so hard to do. So many of those guys make plays, and, it could be Kyle or D'Angelo or Juwan or Devin. So many of them, but I think collectively they're going to be huge. But I'm just going to continue to put on Ty Story. I mean, it kind of seems like the easy out, but he's really having a good, efficient season, and I expect that to continue. I think he's going to have another, 66% passing completion game. He's going to have 2 or 3 more touchdowns. He might add another on his legs. He's going to do whatever it takes to get a victory against this rivalry. So it's Ty Story. Probably, every game left in this season is probably going to be Ty Story. He's just proven to be that guy and that leader.
Well, I mean, you said that was going to be your guy until the end of the season, and usually I pick someone different, but it's senior day, and I think this matchup is set up for him to have a big game with the lack of a pass rush and his ability to be accurate at most of the time, especially when he's not hurried. And he's got good escapability and good ability to make plays with his legs. Ty Story's my guy this week too, and he's a senior. So I'm going to pick a senior on senior day. I think he's going to have maybe a career day for Western Kentucky in his home finale for the Hilltoppers. So give me a score prediction this week.
Yeah, I mean, like we stated earlier, we've alluded to that these games have been pretty close over the last 5 or 6 years. But I think right now you've got a tale of two teams going in opposite directions. I mean, Middle's on the fire their coach bandwagon, and they've got to be looking across at us going, that's what we need to do. They hired new blood and immediately saw the impacts and the effect of bringing somebody new into town. A new sheriff revitalized the team, changed the complete direction from being just a train wreck last year, 3 to looking at possibly 8-9 wins this season. We've got to be kind of their main example of that's what we need to do. So score prediction, I think the Tops are going to break 30 this game. I think there may be a little extra motivation with, like you said, it being senior night, last game at the house for a few of the players. And being that rivalry game, I think Western's going to put up 34 points. And I think they're going to hold Middle to 14 points.
Okay, that's fair. That's super fair. I have the game 35-17, and it could just as easily be 14. It's just one of those. But I think this is going to be, like you said, there's a little bit more on the line. It goes beyond just a win. It's who you're playing against and what it means in senior day and all that kind of stuff. And I like the Toppers to eclipse 30 and get to 35. You just might see a fluky play or a breakdown in defense, something like that to get Middle Tennessee on the board. And they're all, they're probably going to sustain at least one drive, you'd like to think, throughout the game. So, whatever. Cruising to an 18-point victory for the second week in a row. I mean, call it what it is. Let's get the Toppers to 8 wins and see where the chips fall at the end of the final week of the regular season. See who goes where. Let's close out the episode this week. We'll get Steven's final thoughts, and then we'll look forward to the games on Saturday and see how it goes. So, Steve, what you got? Final thoughts this week as we look ahead to the 100 miles of hate for Western Kentucky and Senior Day.
Yeah, I mean, kind of our longest rivalry in football, 100 miles of hate. This is the one that most of the fan base, we want to win every year. Obviously, the rivalry of Marshall's building into a must-see TV every year as well. But this one goes back, OVC Conference, Sun Belt Conference, now Conference USA. It's always a lot of dislike there between the fan bases and the schools. I think that this game is really not a very closely contested one. I mean, I think it's going to be one that kind of puts the final nail in the coffin for them, that they're kind of stuck with this terrible coach that has this ridiculous $6 million buyout. So he's not going anywhere. He decides to step down. And why would he when he has a $6 million buyout? If y'all want me to leave, pay me to leave.
Yeah.
We're going to take care of business. Really looking forward to what bowl game opportunity we might get. Hoping it's somewhere close, but the projections right now have us not, close to home. The most interesting two being Appalachian State, so playing a ranked opponent in the bowl season, and then playing Utah State with former coach Sanford being offensive coordinator there. So I think either one of those would be interesting matchups, but you just never know, where the chips are going to fall. I believe there's eight eligible teams right now in Conference USA for 6 spots. So
yeah,
let's just go win, control what we can control right now, get this victory, and then figure out who we're going to play next and prepare for that and hopefully have another good win. So good season. Let's just not have a letdown game in this rivalry opponent here. Let's put them in their place and keep them depressed and being average middle as usual.
Average middle as usual. I cannot believe Rick Stockstill has a $6 million buyout. Wow, man, I need his agent. That's all I know.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. I think one thing you can take to the bank is that you will not have to worry about going to the Bahamas Bowl this year. I would contend that will be Charlotte. Unfortunately, that nobody wants to go to the Bahamas, and Charlotte is one of those 6-win teams. It's their first bowl win or first bowl game ever. So, I bet you that's where Charlotte ends up. I think FIU went there last year, so I doubt they're going to send them back 2 times in a row. But they could, But getting to that 7th win was huge. That kind of eliminates your shot at going to the Bahamas. Nobody wants that. And Hawaii is equally as worse because that's even more expensive to go to Hawaii. We can talk about bowls here as more things iron out, because heck, for right now, we really don't even know who's going to be playing in the Conference USA title game, but that has no bearing on the effect of this game. Go take care of business, get a win, and beat the snot out of an inferior opponent at home on Senior Day. Get to those 8 wins and see if you can get to 9-4 on the season with a bowl win. That would be phenomenal. Got to say, though, while we're talking bowls, I am pretty intrigued by the Appalachian State projection. That would be really, really interesting matchup. So let's get out of here this week. It's kind of weird we don't have Trace here to give us a go herd, but I'll lead you out and you can give me a go tops, and we'll get the heck out of here and hope for a big win. So until next week, Steve.
Go Tops.
We are out of here. It's the Moonshine Throwdown podcast. Later.